Brian Windhorst is going to begin deconstructing this. Is anybody happy in this trade?
You know, Bob, we're going to have to wait probably a year or so to really know if there's a winner or loser here, because this is one of the more bizarre star trades I've seen in the last 15 years covering the NBA, because we don't know about Kawhi Leonard's health. That's a really important factor here. Is he going to be the same player he was 2 years ago when he may have been able to lead an upset of the Warriors in the playoffs? Or is he going to be diminished somewhat? Will he stay in Toronto? Will DeMar DeRoza be a good fit and continue the Spurs level of competitiveness? This is going to be one that's going to be difficult to call today. Yeah. What I will say is this. The Raptors got a really good discount here, and they leveraged this trade, and they got a way to find a way to accept this risk. And this could elevate them to the top team in the Eastern Conference. They are really good if Kawhi Leonard is himself.
Now you talk about himself. You would think, though, the Raptors, certainly there was a physical involved, I would think, and it was a rigorous one. So you still think there may be a question here?
There hasn't been a physical yet.
No.
Kawhi Leonard has 48 hours, I believe, to report. But then he potentially could, have that extended. It's possible, Bob, that the Raptors would waive the physical here because they are really interested in just getting Kawhi on their roster, even if that means taking a gamble. That is the next layer of this trade. We think it's done. They had a conversation and cleared it with the league today. The teams put out press releases. Greg Popovich is having a press conference. But we're not 100% sure this is going to go through. But obviously the Raptors have had to vet this. They knew that there's a possibility that Kawhi may not show up right away.
All right, this is bizarro world, to say the least, Wendy. All right, it even gets stranger. Let's put up on the screen the goodbye relative tweets that the Spurs put out for Danny Green. In the same time, they were also saying thank you to Kawhi Leonard. And the conspiracy theorists on the internet, and Lord knows there are a few dozen of those out there on their sofa. And look at that big font for Danny Green. Look at that tiny little font for Kawhi Leonard. And Tom Haberstroh points out on Twitter that the official release from the Spurs omits Kawhi's finals MVP, his All-Star appearances, Defensive Player of the Year, his 2014 ring. Everyone is saying, boy, the Spurs are just brushing him to the side.
Yeah, there's no love lost here. This was a really bad breakup. I think the Spurs handled this with some level of maturity. I've seen it go worse. Let's go back to 2010 with Dan Gilbert as being the Class A example of that. But this was no love lost here, not only between the Spurs and front office and Kawhi Leonard, but his own teammates. And that's why we all knew that this eventually was going to happen, whether it was going to happen today or in August or in September, that Kawhi and the Spurs were done. And this is not something that happened in San Antonio before. They have been immune from this. And how they handle this is really going to affect them as a franchise. They have elected, Bob, to trade for a player who can help them maintain some level of competitiveness. They elected not to wait for prospect players. That is a bit of a controversial decision. Some other people in this situation would have gone for more younger players and more draft picks. So we'll see. This is not part of the Spurs book. They've written many chapters. There's a gospel out there. This is outside their normal operation.
So the book of intrigue is only in the second or third chapter, and we don't even know if there's, well, you say no physical. We're waiting to see, is it official? Well, yeah, we think so. Brian Windhorst, thanks as always. And now, going yard for the books.
They played the All-Star game and the Home Run Derby broke out. Again, the second night in a row.
All rise in D.C. It's got a chance, and that is gone.
Mike Trout, just stop it. It was fun in the box, man. He's battling, I'm battling.
He has tied things up. Out of here.
This is becoming as exciting as the Home Run Derby.
And we are tied.
Let's go.
Back-to-back Astros homers. 6 straight wins.
The American League wins again.
Now, that record barrage of 10 All-Star home runs was the proper commemorative coin for the modern game of power baseball played in a hitter's ballpark. 10 dingers last night and 25 strikeouts, and even more selfies taken on the field. Part of the relaxed aura around this game. Great for marketing, but hardly a throwback to when these leagues had a visceral rivalry. And among the selfies now sitting there on the cloud, Manny Machado of the Orioles, at least of the Orioles right now, taking a shot with Matt Kemp of the Dodgers. It was part of Machado's nationally televised presumed final game in an O's uniform before, presumably, being traded to the Dodgers. This hanging curveball of a trade was the hard news thread of the All-Star festivities.
Your uncle plays for the Baltimore Orioles. If he's not in the Orioles, what would you like to see your uncle?
Oh, which team? You pick.
Yankees.
Oh!
The Yankees?
He picked the Yankees. Sorry, Pedro. That's you, Pedro.
That may not be happening. And even during the game, this exchange, which we have sanitized with J.D. Martinez in the dugout.
Manny, where you going, dog? No one knows.
Doesn't know where he's going. So with the best player and arguably the worst team in the game about to snap shut his steamer trunk and head west, we turn to the Livios. Call in Tim Kirkchin. Rather surreal, almost like going to your own funeral there for Manny at the All-Star game.
Right. That was a bizarre night for Manny Machado, Bob, but it looks like from all indications that was the last time he's going to wear an Orioles uniform. They're still trying to work out this deal with the Dodgers, but it looks awfully close to being done. And this is something the Orioles have to do. They have to move on and redirect the franchise. And the Dodgers, if this goes through, pick up a shortstop that hits with power, plays the position above average defensively. They haven't won the World Series since 1988, and this is another sign that they're really going for it.
Yeah, and then, of course, what that means to the balance of that division, pressures on somebody else to then make another chess move.
Right, absolutely. I mean, the Diamondbacks are going against the Dodgers for the division title. The Brewers, who play the Dodgers this weekend, were in on Machado. The entire National League, Bob, has been up in the air the entire year. I can't figure out who the best team in the National League is. I don't think anybody knows that. But the Dodgers, if this goes through, just made a move that could make them the team to beat in the National League this year.
Tim, that's what October is for, finding the best team. All right, now let's talk about the best player in the game. It's Mike Trout. He turns 27 next month, and only Ty Cobb and Mickey Mantle had a better wins above replacement at this age. And the parlor game now is, how does baseball make an introverted, supernaturally talented superstar into a marketing magnet? Last month, MLB, very self-aware, Instagramming Trout's surreal numbers with the annotation, quote, "Just doing our best to market Mike Trout," smiley face. It's a topic that goes right to the top of the baseball pyramid, how to maximize the maximum player. Rob Manfred, the commissioner, listen to him say the Angel star is a reluctant salesman here.
I think Mike Trout could raise his profile tomorrow if he decided that he wanted to engage a little more fully, give up some more of his free time. And that's his choice. I mean, that really is his choice. What player marketing takes in today's world, you got to be willing to be out there on social media. You got to be willing to put yourself out there, and you have to devote time to it.
Now, during last night's telecast, Trout wore a microphone for Fox. He was chatting with Joe Buck and John Smoltz back on the booth. He even did a little weather work. It's his hobby. Listen here in the dugout.
Gonna have a little bit of rain. I don't think it's gonna get much harder than this. Shouldn't be much longer. Should be clear. But it's definitely cooling off the field.
Yeah, he was right about that. And afterwards, with Manfred's words hanging in the air, Trout was standing his ground.
I keep telling you guys, I do as much as I can, but it's a long baseball season. So I got to pick and choose when I want to, do things and go from there.
Back with Tim Kirkchin. It is rather curious. You got the man who runs this shooting match, the commissioner, almost reaching out and trying to drag him into the spotlight.
Right, and the commissioner's right. It has to start with the player. But I know Mike Trout pretty well, and he's just not comfortable being out in front all the time. He's not comfortable talking about himself. And even though he's got a lot to share, he's a funny guy who tells a good story and has interesting stories to tell. He's just not that way. And I think the best way to market the game for him is what he's doing right now. He goes out there every single day as the best player in the game. He always does and says the right thing. And for him, that has to be good enough. But for baseball, they'd like him to do more, but this is his choice. Yeah. And it's difficult to argue with his choice when he plays like this every day for the last 6.5 years.
It's been insane. The other topic is the discovery of Josh Hader's old tweets last night. Even during the game, 7-year-old tweets from Hader's account, many echoing rap lyrics employing the N-word. One tweet with expressing homophobic sentiment. These tweets came to light after the game. Hader apologized.
You know, it was something that happened, you know, when I was 17 years old, and, you know, as a child, I was immature, and I, you know, obviously said some things that were inexcusable. You know, that doesn't reflect on who I am as a person today, and, you know, that's just what it is. I'm ready for any consequences that happen for, you know, what happened 7 years ago.
Hader's teammate, fellow All-Star Lorenzo Cain, sympathizing with Hader's situation.
That's one reason why I don't have social media, because, you know, for things like this, you know, you always get in trouble for, you know, things you said when you're younger. You know, even when we're 17, 18 years old. You know, if we could follow each other around with a recorder every day, I'm sure we all said some, you know, some dumb stuff.
And Tim Kirchner within the hour baseball saying that the immediate apology had some impact, but they're going to require sensitivity training for Mr. Hader, participation in MLB's diversity and inclusion initiatives. How did this spread among the press last night?
Well, it came out of nowhere, Bob, and I was chasing around home run hitters last night and the MVP of the game and everything else. But as soon as the game was over, it hit like a barrage here that what Josh Hader had said 7 years ago, and it's just another reminder that once you say something and then social media gets a hold of it, it can spread very quickly, and that's precisely what happened last night. At least Hader got in front of it and seemed contrite about the things that he had said.
Yeah, statements from both the Brewers and from MLB today. I'll have more on that coming up in the BLT later. Tim, always great to see you. Thanks. Next is the American soccer breeding machine, damaged and dangerous. Taylor Twellman, who should know, is going to be joining me live next. Team this offseason. The Spanish center tweeting this picture of he and other members of Proactiva Open Arms rescuing an African woman off the coast of Libya. She had been clinging to a lifeboat in the Mediterranean. That organization aids refugees fleeing war and poverty. Fernando Rodney of the Twins spent his All-Star break becoming a United States citizen. Congratulations. Born in the Dominican, got his certificate on Monday in Miami after leaving Sunday's game after the fifth inning to catch a flight to the hearing. Rodney, the active leader in saves, has been in the United States for 19